And so much would change in your life just by doing that one thing, no matter what it is. If it's just taking 5 minutes for yourself throughout the day, waking up an hour later, not washing those dishes, not letting someone, not even answering your phone for the first 2 hours of the day. Whatever that self-care is for you, do that. Take care of yourself first. That is my tip for this Thursday morning.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you guys did not know, you are in the Fit, Healthy, and Blessed Club. I need someone, Cynthia, if you can put the YouTube channel at the top, because right now, guess what? I am live. Yes, live and in person. So if you wanted to see my face, you can see me on You can see me on YouTube. You can also see me on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. Why? Why am I doing this? One, I feel God has put this gift on my chest, on my heart, to motivate, inspire, and push people to get to the next level. Cynthia gave us a fit tip of the day. Every day we like to start the room off with that. And I would love to hear from those on stage, or if you're watching, just type it in. What is something you do each and every day for self-care? For me, if you're watching, you see I'm holding up this rock, and this rock says grace. And whenever I'm speaking or whenever I feel I need to be a bit more grounded, I do this for my self-care. This week we were talking about earthing and talking about grounding. If anyone here, the movie of the week, movie of the month is called Earthing. It is on YouTube. I invite each and every one of you to watch this movie. It will change your life. It's a game changer. I've heard of grounding before, but when I watched this movie, it reminded me, oh yeah, how important it is. Can you write in the chat or write if you've ever heard of grounding? Grounding is so super important. And the purpose of that, you're walking outside barefoot. I know you're like, what? Walking around barefoot? In the grass, in the sand, connecting to the earth. Also, another thing I want to share, book of the month is Rachel Rogers. Vernita, I know you're going to love this book. It's called We Should All Be Millionaires, because we all should be. So my fit tip for me, what I do, guys, is I get grounded with some grace. I'd love to hear from you, Coach D, Ashley. Just unmic and share your thoughts. Eric, if you want to share what you do, I would love to hear from the men. What do the men do for self-care? Talk to me. Unmic, if you can. If not, I see Eric unmiking.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Happy Thursday, ladies.
Happy Thursday!
Yes, self-care is so important, especially in the mental health, substance abuse space, yo. So for me, man, the best thing I can pass on to the crowd is, yo, make sure you take one day to yourself. Like, that's my thing. Like, Sundays is my day. I don't do social media. I don't do social anything. I'm self-caring. I'm recharging these energy batteries, man, and I'm staying to myself. There's no electronic in the world I'm on a Sunday. So, yo.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you don't take phone calls on Sunday? You don't watch TV? We're talking about self-care right now. This is from a man.
Self-care. Yes, self-care. I'm telling you, the phones is off on Sunday. Like, I watch TV because sports, football. It's football Sunday, okay? Yes. That's self-care to me. Just like not listening to other people's noise on one day a week, because I listen to noise every single second of the day. Yo, so Sundays is my day to say, look, man, hey, unless you dying, unless blood is spilling out your mouth, yo, hey, don't call EA. Let's go.
You know what, EA? I have to just piggyback off what you're saying, because guys, if you think about every single day, how much noise, how much clutter do you hear in your head from the time you wake up? You know, I'm not going to say I'm lucky, but each and every day, if you didn't know, I have an online fitness boutique studio. So we have a yoga or stretch class every day at 7 a.m. So that gives me an opportunity of 30 minutes. But there's still a little noise because sometimes there's movement and there's talking. But I love how you're saying keeping. So welcome to the room, David. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Jewel. If you guys want to come up, just raise your hand. Come up to the stage. Share your thoughts. For this quick moment, we're talking about self-care. That is our self-care tip of the day. Coach D, guys, he is a coach. Know thyself is the purpose of life. Give him a follow. Damien, what are your thoughts on self-care? I'd love to hear what men have to say about self-care. What are your thoughts about that? Do you practice self-care? If so, you can unmic. If not, I'm going to throw it over to Ashley so she can share her tip on self-care. And then she's going to give us our edutainment. Ashley, are you ready to rock and roll, mama?
Yes, indeed. So my self-care is I take showers. I take about 3 showers a day. 1 in the morning, 1 midday, and 1 at night. And I don't know, I'm just connected with water. Even though my sign is
Hold on a second. Let's get back to these showers. So I want to stay with this whole water. Look at Chris Cynthia. If you're watching us, she's just laughing at you right now. So deodorant. I don't wear deodorant. Am I the only one who doesn't wear deodorant? I don't know if it's because I eat super clean, but I think, look at Chris Cynthia. I think it's because of the showers. Whenever I work out, I have to shower. Do you wear deodorant, Ashley?
I actually don't. I wear a pheromone called Hunt's Cake by Bedroom Candy. I haven't worn deodorant since July.
I love it. And if you guys are watching us, I want to give a big old shout out to Marissa. Woo-hoo! Marissa is on LinkedIn and she says, so true. Other people's noise can be exhausting. Oh my gosh, girl. And then you want to be nice and tell them to be quiet or you don't want to hear it, right? It's like, I don't want to hear your mouth anymore. And then the worst is if their voice is annoying. She also says sometimes our own self-dialogue is in our head. She's preaching to the choir. Our own noise in our head. Thank you so much for sharing that, Marissa. She's there on LinkedIn, guys. All right, so we're talking about self-care right now, and we're rolling over into edutainment. This is your 8 a.m. cup of motivation, guys. If you didn't know, we are on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is popping, and if you've never heard of this app, guys, it has truly changed my life. All right, I'm going to stop. Ashley, give us your edutainment for the day.
All right, so the link is actually in the chat already. Today's edutainment is brought to you by the OWL app, where you can take calls and get paid to talk to your clients, aka get some gas money is what I call it. But today's edutainment is a reel of me in my suit getting ready to make soap. So the story behind it is I had recently got a letter from the FBI saying, hey, Ashley, we know about the 300 pounds of lies that you just purchased off of Amazon. And I was like, oh, sugar. So silly me, or inventful me, or creative me said, well, let me send them a letter back and put some samples of my soap in that letter. And I did that. I just got a letter today from FBI saying, hey, we love your soaps and you're out of stock. When are you going to have some more? And sorry about that letter we sent you. Keep making great soap. So that's today's edutainment and motivation. And again, this is brought to you by the OWL app, where you can download on Apple or Google, get a $10 referral code, and have your first 10 calls free at $1. And with that being said, Tina, back to you.
Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so there's two parts of that story I wanna get to. First of all, you said the FBI wrote you a letter. Did you say that?
Yeah, I got a letter saying that we know about the 300 pounds of lie that you purchased on.
Girl, I'd be a little nervous. That's like CIA for, all those TV shows. Well, congratulations. And guys, you see how she turned that negative into a positive. And that's what life is about, guys. Life is going to throw you all sorts of curveballs, all sorts of crap. I normally say, at least for me in life, just throw it all against the wall. Throw the ish on the wall. And then it's all going to hang. It's just going to start falling. Think about poop. All right. If you're throwing poop on the wall and it's falling, what sticks? What's going to hold on and grip? That is your strength. That is your power. So, Ashley, I love how you turn that negative around to something positive. Great, great job. And I also want to tap into this OWL app that she was talking about, because time is so precious, guys. And sometimes people want to talk to you. They know that you're a professional. And it was so funny. I heard someone say either it's a discovery call or they're trying to get information from you. Which is it? And there's nothing wrong with people wanting to get information from you, but time is precious. And like she said, you can get this app. And if someone wants to talk to you, what is it? 2 or 3, you choose the price. Ashley, how much they pay per minute?
Yeah, so you choose the price of how much they pay per minute. But I think a new update is going to come out where you have to charge $1 until you take 10 calls, and then afterwards you can bump your prices up. But here's the thing. When you download the app and use my referral code, and I'll get my referral code in the chat here in a minute, use my referral code, you get $10 free. The owner of the app gives you $10 for free. And that's basically 10 free calls. Now, the thing is, it's like, well, Ashley, it's only 10 minutes. I can only talk to 10 minutes. See you later, baby. Love you. Have a great day. Okay. So you can actually extend the calls for 10, 20 minutes and still charge for that if you have the time. You can also respectfully decline if you do not have the time and you want to move on to something else. And each minute is paid for.
I love this. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing that, guys. If you want more information, just tap into Ashley. This is Ashco Creations, Ashley Davis, and I'm loving this information. So today, guys, it is Thursday, and we're about to get started on our topic. As I mentioned, this is the 8 a.m. Cup of Motivation. We are live right now on YouTube, and it's Thriving Thursday, guys. On Thursdays, I like to pour in to other women. I haven't done any men yet. Maybe I will. Last week we had an amazing interview with Pam, and this week it's funny, guys, how you have people in your life and you don't know how amazing they are. You don't know the different things that they've achieved. And this woman, I interviewed her yesterday, and she's telling me things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got super excited. So today I want you to look at your circle. Look at your network of people around you and ask them, well, what do you do? My guy says to me, Tina, do you teach yoga? And I was like, are you serious? You don't know that I teach yoga? And I'm like, if this is my guy and he doesn't even know I teach yoga, what about the rest of the people in the world? Do you guys also know that I do photography, that I do makeup, that I do event planning, that I do modeling coach? I do a whole lot of stuff. But the point of this story is you have to share your gifts. God gives each and every one of us special gifts. Joyce, if you guys didn't know, she used to own a hair salon. So she clearly is a stylist. She clearly is a professional. She clearly can take you from looking frumpy to looking amazing. I'm not going to say frumpy because that's not too good. But the point of the story is you have to realize who you're surrounding yourself with. Today, I'm so excited about today's topic. I titled it Intermittent Fasting, Yes or No. I was trying to be cool with the whole nah thing there. But
We're getting you there.
Slowly, right? I'm excited for this guest that we have here, and I know she's going to pour so much into us. I wish I could see her face on StreamYard with us. If you're able to click in, Chris, click in. If you're not, it's okay. Either way, I don't care. I'm on here with Cynthia, and Cynthia is looking good. That's our social butterfly, guys. It's all about your vibe, right? Your vibe is your tribe. And we're talking about intermittent fasting. And before we start on the topic, I want you to write in the chat if you've ever heard of this, if you do it. Soul, thanks for coming through, mama. Ash says showers, like you should talk about a shower. Gracious, love and patience of grand rising into you. Hello there, alias Opus. If I said your name wrong, please forgive me. Intermittent fasting. I want to know. Do you do it? Don't you do it? Chris, how you feeling today, mama? Chris is our special guest today, guys. She's going to be speaking with us. I don't know if she's able to speak. She's on a different time zone, so she might be a little late coming through.
Hey, sorry. I was playing around and changing my profile picture. Per our conversation yesterday, I love what you're saying, Tina, because you got to get to know people. And I use an app for my followers, for my contacts, for all that. It's called Contact Mapping, and I encourage you to go with their philosophy on this. It's all about, they published a small little booklet, Coffee Shop Interview. And it's exactly what Tina said. It's down, have a conversation with these people, get to know them. So one of the funniest things, the developer of the app, his name is Tom Chenault. You might have heard of him. He's big in the multi-level marketing world. And his favorite thing to remember about me is that I worked for Richard Simmons. So if you're ever in a room with me and Tom Chenault, he's going to bring up the fact that I worked with Richard Simmons. And my point being is that you want to remember something, because people only love about you what you remember about them. And I will say that again. People only love about you what you remember about them. And it's all about remembering. It's all about doing that coffee shop interview like Tina and I did yesterday. We did an interview and didn't really know where it was going to lead to, but we had a ton of fun. And I need to interview her back because she doesn't know this. We have photography in common. I went to school for photojournalism. I ended up running a portrait studio for several years.
So there's a lot of things we don't know about each other, and there's a lot of fun things that we can tag to with each other. So, Tina, we need to have another conversation.
Yes, I agree. So, guys, Chris, I'm going to say she is an expert. After the interview I had with her yesterday, she's an expert in her field. And I don't want to botch it up, but Chris, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I really want to get into intermittent fasting because, guys, that was a game changer for me. I've done it for years, but I only did 12 hours. And I invite you, if you don't do intermittent fasting at all, that's where you can begin. And it's super simple. Let's just say, for example, your last meal is 7 p.m. at night. Don't have your next meal until after 7 a.m. in the morning. That's easy, right? That's 12 hours. And I was doing that for years and I was accustomed to it. But I'm approaching 50 and like Chris and I were birthday sisters. And for some reason, the scale was stuck. It was like plaque on your teeth. It doesn't want to come off. The scale would not move. And I'm like, what's going on? Well, many factors come into play when the weight won't come off. One, I'm turning 50. Two, stress, not sleeping. But I did two things to change that, guys. The first thing I did is I opened my window of intermittent fasting, meaning instead of doing 12 hours, I opened it up first to 14 and then to 16. But I also added in a magic drink. And if you want that magic drink, I lost 8 pounds in 1 week from intermittent fasting and this drink. Just DM me if you want information. But we're not talking about the drink today. Today, it's all about intermittent fasting and ketones. And Chris, I found one, guys. Woo! I found a ketone. If you guys know anything about ketosis or ketones, I don't do the ketogenic diet, but I do take ketones. And Chris is going to talk about this in full detail, which is amazing. But going back to the intermittent fasting, that's where you can begin. I've even gone as far as 72 hours with no food, just liquids. But without further ado, I want us to make some noise. But before we make some noise, guys, let's just share this room out. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel. We're here Monday through Thursday with this room. If you're on LinkedIn, share it out. If you're on Clubhouse, just give it a share in the hallways and say, it's time to get lifted. It's time to learn about intermittent fasting. If you want to raise your hand and come up to the stage, I see Cindy in the building. I see Edward. Is she still? Oh, looks like we lost Chris. Oh, no, there's Chris. I'm like, I don't see Chris, but you changed your profile picture. Guys, she has a profile picture of her and Richard Simmons. When she told me yesterday she worked with Richard Simmons, I was like, oh, my, and they kind of look alike with the curly hair. Alrighty, guys, without further ado, Chris, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then let's get right into the intermittent fasting and ketones. You're up, mama.
Hey there. I can't remember if that was a thing we had to do with Richard Simmons that had the same hairdo, but anyway, I had the same hairdo as Richard Simmons back in the 80s. And so that being said, I did work for Richard Simmons back in the 80s, and that means I'm a little bit older than most of you in this room. And Tina mentioned that, as we age, it gets a little tougher. It gets harder to keep our body where we want it. It gets harder to keep just looking like we used to. And there's nothing wrong with changing and evolving, because I'm not going to be that person that gets a bunch of plastic surgery and Botox and all this and that. I think I still want to look like I'm 20, but I want to age gracefully. And I found intermittent fasting contributed a lot to my aging gracefully. And Tina was speaking to, like, she's super busy. She, wasn't getting enough sleep. There were all kinds of things going on. Well, let me tell you a little tip about intermittent fasting. You only eat 2 meals a day. Maybe some days you only eat 1 meal a day. That's going to give you a lot of extra time, not having to prep food. It's going to save you a little bit of money, not having to buy as much food. So look at intermittent fasting as a time saver. And who does not want a time saver? Now, I do want to say I am not an expert in the fact that I've got some kind of PhD in intermittent fasting. What I am going to tell you is what works for me. And I'll tell you my story. In January of this year, I looked in the mirror and I saw a person that I didn't want to see in my daughter's wedding pictures. My daughter got married in June, and I'm like, not totally happy with how I look. I turned 65 last year, and I had 20 pounds to lose. And I've always been on the slimmer side, but when you've got that last 20 pounds to lose and you're going into age 66, there's a lot of things going against your metabolism, all right? Just going to put it out there. It's not easy, but it is simple. So what I did was I got with an intermittent fasting coach, and some of you guys know it's my go-to guy, Dwayne, on this app a lot. He is a wealth of knowledge, and I just want him to share his program out more and more. I did it twice. And what I learned is that you can have a window of eating. So I was always versed in intermittent fasting, and I like to call it intermittent eating. What I didn't know was that you should be allowing yourself a minimum of 3 hours, optimum 4 hours of rest in between meals. And rest, I mean not eating, not like sleeping, but not eating, and that food metabolize. That is what turned the intermittent fasting that I knew from the old days into what allowed me to lose 20 pounds and be exactly where I wanted to be for my daughter's wedding.
Chris, can we take a quick pause with that 3 to 4 hours? Are you saying that you're suggesting no snacking? Because in the past, they would say, oh, it's okay to snack if it's healthy snacks. What are your thoughts on that?
No, so let me explain this. And this is it. Ultimately, was that simple trip to be the game changer for me, because how it was explained to me is that your body, you load your body up with food. Now, I'm not saying we're cutting calories, because I eat a lot when I eat that meal, and I can take that meal and spread it out over like 45 minutes. So I might have a little tiny snack while I'm preparing the rest of the meal. So, there you go with your little snack, maybe a handful of nuts, maybe some celery, maybe some radishes, something like that you're munching on while you're preparing your food. So you can spread out the meal. What happens, though, is once you have that meal inside you, your body goes to work. All your hormones go to work. And as we're older, our hormones don't want to work as hard for some reason. Anyway, we've got to give them all the help they can get. So while your hormones are working to digest your food, that whole process takes really 4 hours from start to finish. So once you start eating, you time yourself 4 hours till you eat again. What's happening is your body's going through every single process, and I am not a scientist. I cannot explain all the process of digestion. But you've got to allow that whole system to complete itself. It's like giving a painter a room to paint, and then he starts painting it, and then you change the color on him, and then he's got to go ahead and change the paint color and start all over again. He's never going to get done. So you want the system to get done before you add more work to it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But what about that person that says, I'm always hungry, or I eat and then 2 hours later I'm hungry again? What would you say to that person if they're working on doing intermittent fasting? And just to clarify, guys, she's saying you want to have 3 to 4 hours between each meal. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, ultimately, I'd like to see you have 4. People often need to start out at 3, but your goal should be 4 hours between each meal. And it's not hard. And the deal is, when you're getting hungry, and Tina, that's how we met, and that's how you started on the ketones. I thought, she should not be getting hungry that quick. The fact is, you should not be getting hungry. You should not need snacks during the day. When you need snacks during the day, it's just you did not eat enough at that meal. And that's where people go a little bit off track, because they intermittent fasting and I'm not going to eat very much and blah, blah, blah. Our body needs food. We need calories. We need to be efficient. I have worked with so many people that can't lose weight because they are not eating enough food. And it's a hard thing to do, to convince somebody you got to eat more food to lose weight. So what you need to put in that window where you're eating is you need to put some good fats. You need to get a lot of protein, especially as we age. I don't really believe you can overdo it on protein because your body just won't allow you to eat too much, and we need it when we age because we don't process it as well. So you need a lot of fat and a lot of protein. I do a low carbohydrate diet. I do not do a strict keto diet, but I lower my carbohydrates because if you're eating your whole meal of carbohydrates, your body does digest those really quick. So you will get hungry because it went through the process a little quicker. Now, do you want to, since it did go through that digestion process quicker, if you ate just a whole bunch of carbs, do you want to eat again in 2 to 3 hours? You will feel like you want to eat, but if you were trying to lose weight, I wouldn't advise it. So you want to cut back on your carbohydrates and load up on your fats and proteins because they're going to keep you satiated. They're going to keep that hunger feeling at bay until it's time to eat again. Does that help clarify
It
that?
does help. And I recall you saying once, now guys, to let you guys know, Chris is an expert, as I mentioned. She's one of the instructors in my studio. I have an online fitness boutique studio. And if you're looking for accountability and community, I do want to invite you. Every Monday night, we have an accountability call. And she speaks about all various things. But I remember you once saying when it comes to eating, the way you're eating and when you're eating, and I believe you said fats and proteins and leaves. I don't want to mess it up, but can you just confirm that again? How and when to eat?
Sure. Yes, fats and proteins, and fat be healthy fats. You can use some good oils like avocado oil, olive oil. You can use butter. You can use avocado itself. You can use animal fats, but if you're using a high level of fat, you've got to lower your carbohydrates because fats and carbohydrates don't go that well together. So let me give you an example of what I do. So when I break my fast during the day, my first meal of the day, it's typically anywhere from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., depending on what kind of window I'm working on, and we can talk about that in a minute. I stick to fat and protein for that first meal. Reason being, if I add a bunch of carbohydrates for my first meal, I am hungry. I'm all of a sudden just hungry. I don't know why, if it's just me. I know other people experience this. So my first meal might be just a couple eggs and some avocado. It might be, that's typically what I do. I'm trying to think of some other examples. You can have leftover dinner from the night before. Just keep your carbohydrates out of your first meal, and that's going to fill you up a lot better. It's going to burn more efficiently in your body, and it's going to give you more energy.
So, Chris, one second, Chris. Yeah. If you have someone and they're starting this fitness journey and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to have that biscuit. I have to have that pancake. I have to have that oatmeal." Would having one piece of bread or less of the oatmeal, would that be a good start for someone who's starting on their fitness journey? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what I was going to get to is when I put my carbohydrates in, I put them in my second meal of the day. So I am a firm believer. You leave that biscuit and everything out of that first meal because you're setting yourself up for the day, okay? And it will lead you to more hunger if you are having carbohydrates. And I have taken grains out of my diet, so I do not eat biscuits or toast. But wheat doesn't like me. I'm not a celiac disease person, but you got to figure out what things make you react, what things bloat your stomach. And this intermittent fasting or eating way of lifestyle, you'll discover this pretty quickly. Like after you eat, wow, something I just ate did not agree with me. So what I suggest, and here's where I put my veggies and fruits and everything in my second meal. So my second meal is going to be leaner. It's not going to have as much fat. It will have some fat to satisfy me. But that might be where I do salad with chicken on it, or I do a stir-fry veggie or something like that. And your carbs will actually help you sleep better. So that's how I like it at night. The carbs kind of help you sleep. So if you start your day off with carbs, you might find you're a little more sluggish in the beginning of the day as well.
Yes, and I just want to say, we're loving Marissa over here. Marissa says carbohydrates stimulate insulin, which makes you hungry. And as I'm sitting here, I'm like, gosh, just talking about food is making me hungry. And that is so, so very true. Okay, Kim, Lord, she must be talking about, I want to talk about ketones next. Ketosis, first ketosis, then ketones. Because guys, game changer, game changer.
I love what she said about insulin. Yes, you have to have insulin to digest carbohydrates. You do not have to have insulin to digest when you keep it to fat and protein. So that does not spike your insulin like carbohydrates do. And that's where the ketones come in. The ketones for me, well, Tina, I'm going to tell you your story about the ketones. Why I heard Tina was going to do a 72-hour fast. We were on Clubhouse, and I'm thinking, and I know she's hungry all the time. She says it. I'm hungry all the time. I'm hungry all the time.
I'm hungry right now, Chris.
Drink a glass of water, because a lot of times, here's a big tip, a lot of times we think we're hungry, and we're really just needing water, okay? Drink a big glass of water. If you guys are in, like, what you might think starvation mode, but you're not, like, shaky or going to pass out or anything, have a glass of water, assess the situation over about 5 minutes. See if you really are still hungry. So, Tina, you go have a glass of water.
I'm drinking it now. If you're watching me, I'm drinking my water. I'm looking at the timer. It's been 30 minutes. I guess because I've been working out since 6, but go ahead.
Okay, I got a little off track. So anyway, I heard she was going to do this fast, and I know my ketones will work for her, because here's the deal with drinkable ketones. And I'm going to start with the drinkable ketone part, because in 2015, this company came out and they created a product that is a ketone. It's a powder that you mix in water. It's bioidentical to the ketones your body makes if your body is in a starvation mode. And it's the fuel that your body was born in. Did you know we were born in ketosis? Babies are all in ketosis when they're born. They have not had any carbohydrates. And until they do, they are in ketosis. And that God made it that way because he knows our bodies thrive when they grow. Our nervous system, everything we need to grow is working way better when we have ketones in our system. So fast forward to Tina. What the ketones do is they are somewhat of a natural appetite suppressant because they're actual fuel that you're putting in your body. So when we eat a meal, our body turns it into fuel, okay? It turns it into glucose, our body, and that's what most of us live on is glucose. That gives us the energy we need. That gives us the hormones, so it gives us the full feeling that we have and all that. So when we eat, our body goes into that conversion process, which I was talking about, which takes like 4 hours, okay? Now, our body likes two fuels. It likes glucose and it likes ketones. Until these drinkable ketones came out, you had to starve yourself of all carbohydrates. You had to have all the glucose out of your body before your liver would make ketones. Now, you can drink these ketones and you can enjoy the benefit of the actual fuel. So think of your body running like a hybrid car. You got the electricity and you've got the gas. When one runs out, the other one takes off. So now we've got the ketones in our system for a good 8 hours because you just had your wonderful ketone drink. And it did not have to the body did not have to convert it to ketones. It is already ketones. So that is the wonderful part. It didn't have to do what it does with food, convert it to glucose. It just goes right in your bloodstream. And it gives you that feeling of being full, motivated. It goes right to my brain. It gives me that, okay, I'm ready to go work out. I'm ready to go write a book. I'm ready to do whatever I want to do because it just makes you feel good. Because it's the fuel your body was intended to use. Does that help you, Tina?
It does. And if you guys have any questions, just chime in right now. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, so why are you hungry, Tina? I'm thinking about the last meal I had last night, which was 7:30. And I'm thinking probably because I've been up super early in the morning. You know, I've done 2 hours of working out. So that could possibly be a little why I'm hungry. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I'd say go get some eat. Don't ignore your body, guys. And look, she just did 2 hours of work. Her body wants fuel. That's why she's hungry. But I want you to go have some fat and protein and drink your ketones. Drink that pack you found. And, but yeah, listen to your body. The thing with intermittent fasting is you don't want to get in a pattern where you never break that pattern. Your body will learn to adapt to that, and it just goes into, okay, we're in standstill mode. There's no changes necessary because we know exactly what's going to happen. So you've got to keep your body guessing. So I mix my windows up. I keep my rule of 4 hours between meals, but you change your window. So Tina, I advise you to, on those mornings where you are teaching 2 hours, to listen to your body when it's hungry. Do start it with fat and protein. Don't go with the carbohydrates because your body wants to rebuild that muscle that you just broke down. And that's a whole nother conversation on how our body works when we work out. But listen to your body. I have mornings where I wake up when I'm hungry. And like you said, you can think back, oh my goodness, what did I eat last night? Did it really fill me up? Did it give me enough fuel to get through that 2 hours of exercise that I have in the morning? So think ahead, guys, because your last meal at night can be, it does set you up for the next day.
Chris, you got to talk about that night. You remember I ate like right before I went to bed. Share the funny story. Oh my gosh, it was funny, guys.
Okay, I want you tell funny stories better than me.
So I'll share the story and she'll give the result of what. So the prior night, I don't know if I was happy, depressed, sad, or whatever. I don't know. But let's just say right before I went to bed, I don't remember what it was, but it was either chocolate cake or something I shouldn't have eaten right before I went to bed. And I ate it and then got in the bed and I could not sleep. I was tossing and turning all night long. And of course, I have to be up at 5 a.m. and then we do the room. And then Chris explained to me what happened. And then she talked about the 90 minutes before you go to bed. That's what I want you to share as well, because that's another game changer. Go for it, Chris.
That was a perfect lead into that. So we've got our window, right? We've got our window of 4 hours between meals. So all this is, it's very simple. You just got to do a little simple math to make it through your day. You can adjust it in several different ways. But you want to probably have at least 2 hours. It would be best to have 2 hours before you go to bed, from the time you eat to the time you go to bed. Let that digestion.
Okay, pause. Wait a second. I have a question for you. So does this include laying in bed reading, or if you're watching TV, or is it like moving around to have that last meal? Do you understand the question?
Yeah. You could lay around. You could be watching TV. Totally. You don't have to be exercising or anything like that. And this is your body's time to start calming down. And we've had rooms on that, on how mentally to prepare yourself for bed. What I'm talking about in the 2 hours is from the time you ate until the time you expect to be asleep. Does that help clarify that?
Yes. Because it's, I guess, when your eyes are closed. And I say this because if you eat your last meal at 7:30 and then you're in bed at 8 o'clock, like me, or 8:30, but you're reading or doing something, that's okay.
Yeah, you might want to stay up a little bit longer. I don't know. I think that's okay. You need your sleep, so we're not going to do that. I would try to get done with my meal by about 6 o'clock if I were you and I was on your time frame. So if that's possible, and it might not work every day, but you might have days where you can make that work. So the earlier we do get done eating, the easier it is to have a longer window to fast in, because you're sleeping for most of it, right? So if I encourage you all to get done with your meals probably by no later than 7 a.m. Some people have that window open till 8, but then, you're up till 10, and your good sleep occurs anywhere from 10 to 2. So don't miss that window when you are sleeping. And I'm getting off track. So yes, you do not want your body digesting a lot of food. Chocolate probably wasn't the best thing to have because it does have caffeine. It is a stimulant. And when you have a caffeine in your system, your melatonin does not want to come to work. So you need to have your caffeine out of your system pretty early in the day. There is a shelf life of caffeine, 10 hours, okay? So figure it out. If you had your last cup of coffee at noon, then you've got to wait 10 hours before you could really get into a really healthy, good sleep mode. And that would be 10 o'clock.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Watch where you're putting your coffee because it goes in peaks and valleys. The caffeine lives in our system. And what I've told is melatonin, which is what we need to sleep and restore our body, will not work if caffeine is in our body.
Love this. If you guys have any questions about intermittent fasting or the ketones, write it in now. Mary Kim, question, do you do intermittent fasting? Is this conversation assisting you, helping you? Would love to hear from you, Mary Kim.
I have not. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I have not done it yet, but I love this conversation because I've been hearing so much good stuff about it, and just learning from Chris has been really great. I do have a question for Chris. The other day, or was it last week, we were talking about putting like the first drink of water, the first glass of water that you have, and the second glass, and in the second glass, you recommended that you put a little the good salt in there. I have cut out salt I don't put it in any of my cooking at all for probably before Desi was born, so it has to be at least over a decade. And I buy things unsalted as best I can because and even for my son. And so having that, it was like maybe a teaspoon I put into this big, it was like over 30 ounces of water. And I was like barfing in the beginning of it because it tasted like salt, like seawater. Is it supposed to taste like that? Should I just continue on doing that? And it was just like, I'm sure I should because that's what you suggested, but I'm like, it's like a couple days now and I'm getting better at it, but like and I know it's not a long period of time, but I don't know. I don't like drinking that salt, but I know it's good for you. So if you could just clear my mind, that would be amazing.
Okay. I love this. It's perfect. So what kind of salt are you using? Mary Kim?
It is, hold on, it's one of the sea salts, hold on. I only used what I had, and here it is. It's Mediterranean sea salt. I didn't speak for. Oh, and it's only Mediterranean sea salt in the ingredients.
Okay, good. Okay, because we want to make sure you're getting.
Chris, can you explain this to everyone who doesn't know what she's talking about with the salt, the importance?
Yeah. So the salt is basically an electrolyte. A good salt, not a Morton salt, but a good salt that has not been processed. It's just been mined from the earth, which would be a Celtic salt, would be Redmond's real salt, is made here in the U.S. and it's awesome. Any kind of pink Himalayan salt that you just look at the ingredient, like Mary Kim said, and make sure the only ingredient is salt. If you look at the back of Morton salt, you will die at all the ingredients. So anyway, you want electrolytes in your body. Your electrolytes are what fill up the cells. We work on energy. We work on electricity. It's the potassium, the magnesium, and the minerals that our bodies are made of that we need to replenish, especially if we're drinking a lot of water, because you can dilute those minerals by drinking a ton of water. So it's like a catch-22. We have to drink water. We want to stay hydrated, but if you're drinking plain water all day and not enhancing with any kind of electrolyte at some point during the day, you're pretty much diluting your body. So you've gotta learn. There is a book called Quench. It talks about all forms of hydration, but we've got to stay hydrated in a proper way. But back to your tasting thing, Mary Kim. Here's what I do, because I don't want to drink salt water all day long either. And I have heard that a really clean, good salt will not make the water taste like salt water, but you are so salt-free in your life that I love salt. See, I have salt on everything. So I love salt, but you're so sensitive to it right now. Now, this might make you really cringe, but it will be the quicker solution for you. Here's what I do. First thing in the morning, I take a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I put it in the palm of my hand. I lick it off, and I down a big glass of water. And just down it down. The taste will go away. You can pretend like you're doing a shot of tequila. I don't care. But it's way easier than sitting there with a big jug of salt water, okay? And it's more efficient. It's quicker. So try that and get back to me and let me know if you can do that. I hope it doesn't make you gag.
No.
Start with like an eighth of a teaspoon. Just put a little bit of salt in your palm and lick it off and have that water ready to down it, because you're not a salt person. Salt, there's a saying that goes, do not blame salt for what sugar did, because a lot of people are afraid of salt, and it's basically all the sugar in their system that's causing the problems. So you might want to reintroduce salt here and there. I don't know your medical history, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't make any medical claims, but we can have a chat about that. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, it was, and I'm totally. I totally can be a baker. I'm going to do the 1/4 salt. Is this my second glass of water of the day I do this, or the first? Second, right?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, and what she's speaking about is, here's what I suggest to people. When you get up first thing in the morning, get some of your water in. Get your hydration in. The day gets busy. We run out of time. We can't reach for that glass of water. We forget to drink the water. Why not start your day with as much water as you can? And what you want to do in the morning is you want to wait 90 minutes before you start eating food, before you break that fast when you get up in the morning, whether you're intermittent fasting or not, before you have that coffee, because your cortisol level just woke you up. When you woke up, your cortisol was high, and we hear high cortisol. Oh, God, that's a bad thing. Well, no, your cortisol is supposed to be high in the morning because it's your alarm clock. It's your internal alarm clock. It's supposed to wake you up. And so it wakes you up. But you got to give it 90 minutes to kind of calm itself back down, get back to its normal level. So during that 90 minutes, what I suggest doing is, one, drinking this water like Mary Kim was talking about. So 1 glass of water, I do the salt with the water for 1 glass, and then another glass, I'll squeeze some lemon in it. The lemon's really great for your digestion. It's great to just add a little acid or alcohol. It actually makes the water alkaline, and I do not know the science behind that, but just it gives you a good balance in your water. So by that time in the morning, I'm drinking about a 15-ounce glass of water each time. So I've got like 30 ounces in. So that's kind of cool. You've got 30 ounces in right off the bat. And just keep going and going during that 90 minutes. Once that 90 minutes up, you can have your coffee. You can go on to your regular routine. But your hormones have leveled out. Your insulin is ready to come in if it's needed to digest whatever you had. And the cortisol is leveled. You don't want your insulin to have to come in when your cortisol is high. That's when all the fat storage and all that starts happening. So you've got to get these hormones balanced. And like we talked, we're all getting older, and we've got to be kinder and kinder to our hormones. Does that answer your question? Does anybody have any questions about that morning routine?
Chris, this has been great. I love it. And actually, I must have heard it in this room on an earlier segment, but to drink water before you have your coffee and breakfast and waiting that 90 minutes. And I've been doing that, and as long as I can remember, as an adult, out of high school and college, when I was having coffee every morning, that would be the first thing I go to is coffee, and I'd make my breakfast. And I'm feeling a difference from just drinking water first, waiting that hour or like now 90 minutes before I, make my coffee and have my breakfast. And I'm feeling the difference in my belly. So I don't have the knowledge behind it, but I'm like, it definitely, I have felt the difference. And I do put the lemon in my water and ginger and turmeric typically also. So thank you for this. It's really helpful. And yeah, as we know better age and stuff, we need to do the things to help us versus hurt us. So thank you so much. I so appreciate this conversation.
Loving it. So one thing I wanted to add to this conversation, if you're just tapping in, guys, we're talking about water and putting electrolytes in it. And one of Chris's partners, I like to call her partner, her name is Dee. She introduced me to something called electrolyte drops. And I'm actually going to make a YouTube video today and put it in it in case anyone wants to purchase it, because like you, Mary Kim, I tried the salt, but just licking salt on my hand, I was just like, eek. So what I do is these electrolyte drops, and it has concentrated sodium, magnesium, potassium, and trace minerals from the Great Salt Lakes, and I just drop it in my water, and this is the equivalent of the salt. And it makes it so much easier to get it in our system. Today we're talking about intermittent fasting. So from what we're saying, can I see a vote? Is it a yay or a nay for intermittent fasting? Are you going to start it? Are you going to continue it? Are you going to open that window? I would love to hear your shares. I think Cynthia, she was on the screen with me here on YouTube. Did you have a question, comment, concern that you wanted to ask Chris or tap in? If so, you can just speak on Clubhouse, Cynthia.
Hey, it's just like I need my ketones back. Yeah. If you guys haven't tried those ketones, it does exactly what Chris says. OMG, it helps. It helps out a lot. I tried it a couple of weeks ago, and I was babysitting my last 2 packs, but it helps. It really helps to keep you that focus. It keeps you from not getting hungry so fast. It really balances everything out. So if you guys want to try that, I advise you to try it and get with Chris to try that out. And I don't have any questions because me and Chris text a lot back and forth. So a lot of my questions she answers via text and checks up on me a lot. So I don't have any questions for her yet this morning.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And Marissa's still with us here on LinkedIn. I'm loving it. She says she needs some consistency with the intermittent fasting. And I so get it, because stress takes over, life takes over. That's what's so great about being a part of our tribe. So I want to invite each and one of you to join our tribe. And what is that? The Elite Stars Fitness classes. We have accountability classes on Monday night, which are absolutely free. We have over 20 classes a week, and everything that you can think of. Start small with the intermittent fasting with a small window. When you go to bed, okay, what time is this last meal? And then the next morning, all of these things. I'm trying to pull my mother up because I started her on these ketones because she would say she has no energy. She's so tired. She would wake up tired. Oh, it looks like she came up to the stage. Hi there, Angela. As we start to end out this room, guys, I just want you to share it out in the hallways, invite someone, because we're going to start to wrap up. But I would love to hear from my mother. And if you're following her on social media, she is, oh my gosh, I forgot her Instagram name. But anyway, she teaches classes on my platform. I have over 20 coaches, and before COVID, or when she was in New Jersey, she taught a class called Silver Sneakers. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of that before, but now she teaches on my platform. It's called Silver Stars, and I was watching her class yesterday, and she just has a whole lot of fun. So, Mommy, if you would like to share your experience with the ketones, because in the beginning she was like, they don't work. It's not doing anything. I can't drink the water. But I would love to hear your experience and how the ketones have changed your life. Or if you're able to speak, Mommy, on mic and share with us your intermittent fasting. She's not on micing either. She can't find the microphone or she can't share. One of the two. I'm not sure. Angela, I see you giving us a heart. I see. Thanks, Ina. Nice to learn on why walk. Oh, you're walking. Yes, moving your body, guys. So important. Okay, Mommy, go for it.
Can you hear me?
If you can speak a little bit louder, that would help.
Okay, I thought I was talking loud. Can you hear me now?
You still sound like you're in the distance.
I mean, Kingwood, they have loud this evening. Can you hear me better now?
It's a little better, but it's still low. Bring your mouth to the phone.
I'll be putting it in my mouth
That's fine. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I start taking the ketones, and they are wonderful. I love them. I have so much energy. I'm doing 2 and 3 classes a day. I'm walking 2-3 miles a day. I feel wonderful. I feel energetic. I feel alive. I feel like I've gotten my life back. I have no pain where, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to share my experience and my knowledge with other people of my age to let you know if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So just move. Come to my class. We have fun. It's not a traditional workout class. It's whatever aches on me. That's what we're going to work on that day. Dance and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And my mother always says that. She's like, oh my gosh, I just missed what she said. What does she say? If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Love it, love it. Renee, are you able to tap into the conversation, intermittent fasting, before we get out of here? Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So I do intermittent fasting. It's usually ranges from 12 to 16 hours depending. But my question was, I struggle to get enough protein, right? So, but I can easily go with 1 meal a day. So my question to Chris is, because it's not good to have too much protein at once. I've heard, do you have any recommendation?
Hey, Renee, that's a great question.
I don't eat meat.
Okay, you don't eat meat. There are protein shakes out there that are really good. I think Tina has access to a really good one. Do you eat eggs? Do you eat eggs?
I eat eggs, and I do have the protein that she uses. That's one of the things that was amazing in my whole fitness journey that propelled me to where I am today. I was wondering if you had heard, like, how much protein is there an amount that's too much to have at one time?
So I am not going to give you an amount of grams or anything like that. I do know, as just a human being, that it would be very hard to physically ingest too much protein. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm thinking about is like those hot dog eating contests or something. You know, you'd almost have to go to that extent to overload yourself. And I'm saying this because we're similar in age. Now, I might not say this to a young child. What it is our body, we need to offer it as much as we can put in it, because it's not going to probably metabolize all of it as efficiently as possible. So in my opinion, I don't think you can overdo it on protein. And over the last several months, I will do a protein shake, and I'll put a couple eggs in the protein shake, because the protein in the egg is probably the easiest for our body to absorb and digest and utilize. And so I'll add that to the actual protein shake I do if I'm going to do a shake at that meal. But I might also eat with that meal and have the protein shake and have the eggs, because I told you I eat a lot when I eat my meals, because I want to be full. I might even put you might want to put some nut butter in your protein shake. But I don't think you have to worry about overloading on protein, unless maybe you are prone to, say, kidney stones or something like that. I would consult your doctor. But other than that, I think it's physically hard to just consume it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, and we need the protein because it's the building block of our muscles. And that is another reason I drink ketones, because I drink ketones. They are actually known to be cell signalers. They go into your mitochondria, and that's the powerhouse, the building block of your muscle. And they encourage that muscle to work, the mitochondria to work, and they help you preserve muscle. So one thing you have to watch out for when you are dieting, if you're just cutting calories and not paying attention to what calories you're cutting, you're at risk of losing muscle. So I encourage you to do that. I just noticed, Tina, that my go-to guy, Dwayne.
Girl, you know I already asked him to come up.
Everything I know.
You know I asked him to come up. Maybe I can get to interview him next week, some guys. Guys, if you go to the bottom, my go-to guy, Dwayne, he actually was the first person that I know of that used the ketones for fasting. We're talking about intermittent fasting today. Renee was asking a question about protein, how much protein you can have at one time. I'm sure my go-to guy is going to write something in the chat. He's in the gym right now, pumping the iron. But the question on the table, and I would love to hear from Coach DC, is can you have too much protein in one take? Because some people eat once a day, and I've always been told anything over 26, 30 grams of protein at one time, your body just kind of doesn't use it. Coach DC, would love to hear your thoughts on the conversation. We're talking about intermittent fasting right now. We're talking about protein intake.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Hope everyone's having a great morning. Can you eat too much protein?
Well, I don't think the question is can you eat too much, because of course you can eat too much. Is will your body use it? Because I've always been told that anything over 26, 28, 30 grams of protein, you're just going to pee it out. Someone else said it's just going to sit there. Would love to hear your thoughts on this conversation.
Okay, so I started intermittent fasting probably about 10, 15 years ago. And for me to start something, it's a real commitment. It's like marriage to me. It's like the things I've said to my wife. Like, I'm going to be here 20 years regardless of anything that happens unless I die. That's just how I look at things. And when I started intermittent fasting, I started it because of I was looking for a cure for diabetes, because diabetes is pretty much rampant in my family. And I was like, okay, that's one thing I'm just not doing. I'm not doing hospital visits. I'm not doing the diabetes. I'm not going to see a doctor all the time. So that means that I have to learn and understand myself. And one of the things I learned and understood is the body is the greatest balancing machine. And doing anything to the extreme, like stuff full of food all the time when we don't need it, you'll create dis-ease or dis-ease in the body. So I started intermittent fasting then, and the interesting thing is I went from intermittent fasting to carnivore. And in carnivore, you would just eat meat all day, which made me feel, I don't know why, the greatest I've ever felt in any diet. But I had to look into that. I had to understand, okay, so why does just eating meat make me feel so good, but everything else? And I finally figured out that the body makes the body makes glucogen through, gluconeogenesis. And so we're always going to make carbs. And anything we eat, even protein, it can still make glucose out of the protein. So it's still going to have the sugar that it needs most of the time. So when I went through carnivore, I was like, okay, that's cool. But then I really started looking at my own diet, and I was like, okay, the intermittent fasting is going to be there forever. I usually don't eat until 2 in the afternoon. That's just the rule. But the whole thing of how much meat, how do I eat any carbs, depends on what I'm doing for the day. Like the first time, I just came from a boxing workout, so that was pretty easy, a lot of cardio, I don't have to worry about it. But when I'm lifting weights or I'm lifting heavy during the day, I eat more food during the day, more protein and more carbs in the day. When I don't, I don't. So now I don't tell my clients to do a diet. I tell my clients to eat towards your energy expenditure for the day. That's always what's worked for me, is eat towards how much energy you're going to use during the day. So on the days that I use more energy, I eat more. On the days that I don't, I don't. Just Coach. Peace.
Thank you very much. And just to recap that, guys, and I've heard that many times before, if you're just sitting around doing nothing, pretty much he's saying, well, then you don't need a lot of food if you're not doing anything. But if you're running, if you're walking, if you're moving, then, move that body. Oh my goodness, guys. Hold on to your belts. It looks like my go-to guy has found some Wi-Fi. Guys, this guy has so much knowledge in his pinky. It is amazing. Today we're talking about intermittent fasting, yes or no. I would love him to really dive into the protein, if you can have too much at one time and waste it. All right, I'm shutting up. Throwing the mic to you, my go-to guy.
Just give me one more second. I got to get back onto places.
No worries, no worries. I do want to welcome Rosa to the building. Aretha, welcome. Rosa, Raj, Andrea, Angela, Teresa, Edward, and Vernita. Guys, we are live here on LinkedIn, and I'm loving everyone that's here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Please subscribe. This is the Fit, Healthy, and Blessed Club. As we're rounding off, we're about to have my go-to guy, Dwayne, come through, who is an expert in his field. He also runs a great program. Maybe one day we can get him on here to really dive into his field. When you're ready to speak, just on mic. Guys, make sure you follow the person next to you, above you. All right, go-to, hit it.
Well, I'm kind of trying to put myself into a corner here where the Wi-Fi might work. So I want to, hi everybody, by the way, thanks for bringing me up. I just want to address the protein thing because this is probably one of the favorite questions everybody has is that myth about the protein. Now, there's a difference between protein absorption and protein synthesis. And the difference is that your body can absorb about 30 grams of protein in a single serving. But that's the absorption. How much can it pull in quickly? But the way protein works, when you look at the type of structure of what protein really is, there is structural protein and there's energy protein. And I know that it seems a little bit odd to say that, but when you look at the biodiversity and the bioavailability of certain proteins, there's a spillover effect. The amount of protein that the body can produce to use to create structure, muscle, tendons, connective tissue, brain matter, bones. A lot of people think that protein is only about muscle. And this is where this difference between absorption and synthesis happens. Protein synthesis takes 24 hours. In fact, all of your growth that you have and all of the repair process that you go through and all the adaptation process is being done and repaired with the protein that you had 24 hours ago. Not the protein that the bro science says where you have to be eating protein 30 minutes after you work out. It's got to be a minimum of 30 grams of protein. The idea behind looking at the two different types of proteins, much like what the last fellow coach said, was that when you look at gluconeogenesis, for example, the body will absorb the protein to be able to create structure in the body. And remember, your metabolism lives in that precious real estate called your muscle. The more muscle you build, the more that your body wants to be able to create mitochondria to be able to create a better ATP cycle, for you to be able to balance your hormones. And your body will hemorrhage energy trying to repair whatever you broke down or whatever you made weak, let's say, for example, in the gym. So as that happens, the body is circulating and keeping readily available this protein for the synthesis over the 24 hours. The absorption is based on what the body can take in immediately, but as it's passing through, it doesn't just get paid out. It is going to be utilized. No different than for example, autophagy, for example. Autophagy is all about recycling dead cells. Well, if there's live available cells and live available protein structure, and when you think of the amount of protein that a person can be able to put in a single day, I eat around 250 grams of protein every single day. I do that in 2 meals. So if you think about the 125 grams of protein that I'm taking in and what the body does with it, the body, as it's hemorrhaging the energy, is recruiting your hormones, your growth hormone, your testosterone. Those are supported by the dietary fats. The proteins that are floating through the body, especially if they're nutrient-dense and biodiverse, like you would find in eggs, raw milk, beef, salmon, pork. For those of you that don't eat pork, don't be offended by it. But when you think of the structure of where that protein comes from, it's all about how the body absorbs it. When it absorbs it, know that it's over a 24-hour period. So can you overeat it in 1 or 2 meals? Not necessarily. What you might find is if you took in 250 grams of protein in a single meal, it may not be absorbed. You may go through a dietary process where a portion of it may not be taken into the body that might be used, but you're certainly not just going to be able to pee it out. But I assure you, the number of 30 is not irrelevant. It's just based on the absorption and not what the body can use over 24 hours. And the more protein, if you prioritize your protein, like Dr. Mila has always said, if you look at protein as the fulcrum in the middle of a seesaw, that protein is your prioritization for all of your macronutrients. When you pick the amount of protein that you want to take in and the quality of the protein and the bioavailability and the biodiversity of protein, when you look at the seesaw, when you add dietary fats, which is what your hormones require for when the body is hemorrhaging energy and looking to do it, it's supported by dietary fats. Your carbohydrates go down, and it's okay for them to go down. It's much like the last fellow coach had said, your body can find glucose. You can't live without glucose. You can live without carbohydrates, but your body will find the glucose. It'll find it through processes of being able to break down through ketone bodies. It'll find it through the process of being able to break down gluconeogenesis. Your body will find the glucose. That balance allows you to be able to prioritize your protein, put as much protein as you want. And the last thing I'll leave you guys with is that number of 1 gram of protein is actually 1 gram of protein per lean body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, but you're carrying about 50 pounds or 60 pounds of fat, you only want to bring in about 140 grams of protein. But one thing to understand is as we get older, over the age of 30, protein synthesis declination starts to come into effect. We need to actually increase the amount of protein that we take in as we get older and not reduce it. Yeah, there was a lot there. It was more than 2 cents. My go-to guy, Dwayne. If you have any more questions, I'll kind of stay in the corner here.
Hey, Dwayne, don't leave. Dwayne.
Okay.
So I would like you to speak to, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I take a protein powder that is designed to have total uptake of the protein in my body. Like, it's a really clean product. It is designed, it says it has 6 grams of protein, but the way the scientists described it, it says it's equivalent to 30 grams of protein the way your body could utilize it. And I don't know if you can speak to that, but what I'd like you to speak to is for people to watch out when they grab like a protein shake off the shelf at Walmart or something like that. All protein is not created equally, especially if it's created in a powdered form. Can you add to that?
Yeah, and I promise not to hijack this entire conversation. First of all, it would be reckless of me to comment on that ratio of 6 to 30. I don't know the science, and I'd love for you to be able to send it to me. When you think of protein, when you think of biodiversity of protein, it's the amount of essential amino acids. So does it cover off the entire spectrum of amino acids? You'll find that in a lot of vegan products, for example, you don't have the full spectrum of amino acids. Some argue that yes, you do, but the truth is that from an animal-based product, the density of the bioavailability is still far more higher. The other thing is not only is the amount of the amino acids, if you're covering off all of them, so essential amino acids, is how nutrient dense are they. And by far and without any argument, number 1 on the top of the scale is whole eggs, not egg whites. This is what a lot of people are confused by. They think, oh, it's egg whites. It's not. Your best source of protein is a whole egg, and the best way to eat it is either soft-boiled, poached, or over easy, because you want the egg whites cooked and you want the egg yolk raw. That's the perfect way of being able to
Are you talking about that runny yellow stuff?
Yes, the runny yellow stuff should be raw, so it should be over easy, poached.
Why? That's so gross. Why?
Well, the reason is because when you cook down the egg yolk, you break down all the nutrients in the egg yolk. You remove all the vitamins, all the minerals. You reduce everything that's within that egg yolk. So you never want to heat the egg yolk, but you want to be able to heat the egg white. This is why I eat like 18 eggs every single day. So when you think of the idea of what the perfect protein is, the next one in line, believe it or not, is casein, which is actually raw milk, raw unpasteurized.
Before we get to the milk, can we go back to the eggs really quick? Is it not important, pasture-raised egg? Does it matter what type of eggs? Because I've heard pasture-raised are the best. What are your thoughts on that?
Pasture-raised eggs are better simply because the bird is outside. Because the bird is always outside, it's absorbing sunlight and absorbing a natural amount of vitamin D. So the vitamin D level that goes up is higher, and the vitamin A level and vitamin B levels are much higher in pasture-raised eggs. So then you also don't get some of the chemicals that you would find in the birds that don't end up getting the sunlight. From a protein perspective, the protein profile is about the same whether you buy it at Costco or you get it pasture-raised, but the pasture-raised egg will be deeper and more biodiverse and more nutrient dense, and that all comes in the egg yolk, and that's the key. is that the difference between a pasture-raised egg and one that you would have bought at Costco that's not pasture-raised is the nutrient density of the egg yolk. And remember that the egg yolk is actually the nutrient that was being fed to the bird that is now supposed to be growing inside. That's where it's getting its nutrients from. So a whole egg is 100% the most biodiverse and biodense, and the bioavailability is between 75 and 80% on a whole egg, and only around 17% if it's just an egg white. So that combination together changes the profile of that egg dramatically. But you'll see a lot of bodybuilders want to eat more egg whites because the caloric count that they're worried about coming from the fat seems to be this misconception. When in fact, when you look at a large egg, half of the protein in a whole egg comes from the egg yolk. So if you remove the egg yolk, you remove the vitamins, you remove the minerals, and you strip it of half of its protein, which is really a big deal. So to get back to, and you can interrupt me again, Tina, because I love it when you do. When you think of number two, when you think of mammalian species producing milk being in its raw format, when it's not processed, when it's not pasteurized, you leave a lot of the enzymes and a lot of the biodiversity inside the milk. The milk in its whole process has never been separated. The cream is in there, the half cream is in there. Nothing has been stripped away, and you don't lose the mineralization and the biodiversity of it. But it's not hard. It's not easy to get raw cow's milk because of industrial processes and why it's such a profitable processable product. So raw goat milk, raw water buffalo milk, those types of milks that come from ruminant meat, being an animal that's got more than one stomach, that type of milk is higher on the bioavailability and the biodiversity of all other forms of protein, which is really close to egg, but it's hard to get your hands on. So then you go down into, and I'm going to touch on the whey protein or the powdered protein. So then you go into the next level is going to be ruminant meat. So the red.
Go back to the milk. So are you saying oat milk, almond milk, all those milks are okay to drink? Yes, no? Because I don't drink regular milk. Are you talking whole milk is good? Talk to me.
Well, it's not oat milk because I've never seen udders on a tree or a nut. But so it's oat juice. It's almond juice. It is a different variation, something that you could be able to get in if you're looking for that texture and you're looking for that. But there's zero comparison. It's like comparing tennis to tackle football. They're not even in the same category. Saying that, I wouldn't take people away from it because a lot of people find an issue with milk because of lactose. Lactose intolerance comes from the separation and the pasteurization of milk. When you think about what milk really was, and why pasteurization came into effect, it was to get away from what was called. It was actually a disease at the time. I apologize, but there was a disease that was associated with the milk because of listeria, because of the potential for bacteria that was inside the cow. So they started boiling it off, and they started to realize they could boil it and separate it. They realized that there was money to be able to be made from it. So as a milk product, like a true mammalian species milk product, in its unpasteurized format, you don't get the same effects in lactose intolerance because none of the enzymes are gone, none of the biodiversity of all the minerals and all the vitamins, the vitamin D, the vitamin B, the vitamin A, all the things that you would have normally found in that milk have been removed, and especially the digestible enzyme that was created by that mammalian species for you to be able to end up drinking the milk. And that's why you can eat ruminant meat, which is a cow, for example, but you can also drink their milk. But once it's been pasteurized, it's no different than any other processed food. It's been stripped of its nutrient density. So if you can get your hands on goat milk will always be raw. If you can get raw water buffalo milk, if you can get anything else that's not regulated by like the dairy farmers of North America, you'll always find that your body will tolerate raw milk more than it will a pasteurized version. That's why everybody goes to like a soy milk or they go to an almond milk, which are basically a juice is what it is. Did I answer that question? I can go back to...
Yep, that's perfect. That's good.
So The last thing is when you look at biodiversity and you look at the difference between what happens to a protein when it's taken in, the higher the biodiversity of the protein, the more structural it goes into the body. That's where it immediately goes into protein synthesis for the muscle, the tissue, the brain, and the bone. When you reduce the amount of bioavailability, the remaining portion is used and converted into energy immediately. So when you think of eating steak, for example, inside the steak, there will be glycogen storages, there'll be certain amounts of proteins, and the types of proteins that will go in, the body will use what it can from structural, and then it'll spill it off to be able to use it as energy. And once it's being used as energy, it could go through the process of gluconeogenesis, or just a spillover effect for it to be able to utilize that energy source, because most of it will also have some protein fats, essential fatty acids attached to it as well. So there is an energy source that comes from protein, not only immediately, but over the 24-hour period. So biodiversity and the biodensity of protein, as the protein levels come down, the amount of protein that you would have to take in to have, let's say, a whey isolate protein, which would be in a powdered format, the amount of energy that you would take because of what you would see 30 grams of whey protein as a single scoop. That 30 grams of protein, all but about 17% of it will be converted into energy. That's why you'll see a lot of people who will have an insulin spike from a protein shake as opposed to 30 grams of eating chicken or beef. And the reason is because the conversion of energy quickly is going to recruit more insulin to be able to use for a whey protein. So even though you're getting 30 grams of protein in, you're actually converting more energy, and that energy manipulation actually throws people off. And that's why you'll see a lot of people say, don't drink your calories. Even though they think, oh, I'm getting 30 grams of protein in, you're also getting a lot of it that's being converted into an energy source. So when you're going into Costco and you're looking at the types of proteins that you're looking at, on the lowest end of the scale, when you look at whey concentrate is just this melting pot of different variations of a low-grade spin-off of what hasn't been reduced down to what is the best version, which is whey protein. So whey protein is at the top, so whey isolate, then it goes down to a casein, and then it goes down to a concentrate. And there's an argument that everybody thinks that the casein protein digests slower and that casein protein has got the most biodiversity, but it has the most biodiversity in its raw format, not in its processed format. But that doesn't mean that you stay away from, or should stay away from protein powders. But what I would suggest to everybody is you are better off, and this is the simple math. You are better off looking at the difference between 30 grams of a whey protein, which converts into energy. So even if I was being generous and said that whey protein was 20%, so you're getting 6 grams of bioavailable protein in 30 grams of a protein powder. The rest is being converted into an energy. It's still floating around the body. It can be utilized, but it's not structurally adapted to the protein synthesis. It's utilized in a way of a form of an energy that needs to be converted. So if you took 30 grams of a whey protein, you can have just one egg, which will give you 6 grams of bioavailable protein. And even at 80%, you're probably closer to 5 grams that's being pulled into your body. So 30 grams of whey protein or 1 egg, you put 2 eggs in, and all you have to do is just spin it into a cup of coffee, put it into a microwave for 10 seconds, and kill off the bacteria, and put it into a shake. You are getting a more biodiverse and more biodense protein off of 2 eggs than you will out of 30 grams of whey isolate protein.
Love that. Guys, make some noise. Give it up for Dwayne. Woo, woo, woo.
Hey, Dwayne, that's kind of exactly what I was getting at. And I just want to say buyer beware, and when everybody's counting their protein, don't go by what the label says. Because when you say it is, your body's going to use it, all different kinds of protein differently. And, so I add egg to my protein shake just as insurance. That's how my brain works.
I love how you say insurance.
One more thing, and then I'll go back to lifting things up and putting them down. There's one thing to take into consideration when you're eating proteins. The different protein structure that you're going to consume will also have a different thermogenic effect on the body. When you eat animal protein, it requires more digestive process for the body to be able to break down, absorb, digest that food. So two things happen. Number one, if you ate 30 grams of chicken breast, for example, or 30 grams of ribeye steak, or you had 30 grams of a whey protein mixed in water, mathematically, you got 30 grams of protein on both of them. But here's the thing. Because of the biodiversity, and because of the digestive process, and because of the absorption and the conversion of energy quickly, you drank that 30-gram 1 scoop of chocolate whey into water, which is what everybody thinks that they should be doing, you will be hungry in an hour, maybe 2 hours tops. You will be hungry right away. You take that 30 grams of steak, so let's say it's a 30 gram, it's a 16-ounce steak, and in that 16-ounce steak, that might be a lot for some people, and you got your 30 grams of protein in that steak, you've got your fatty acids. You eat that, you're not going to be hungry for 3, 4, or even 5 hours. So your ability to control your appetite simply means that it's almost impossible, and I mean almost impossible, for you to overconsume whole foods as opposed to foods that you need to be able to read a label off of. And why is that important? Because when the body has to recruit more energy, the thermogenic effect of utilizing and digesting animal protein, it takes the body more time and more energy, which means your body is going to recruit that energy from someplace else. And because it's going to use the protein to store and stoke that precious real estate of muscle where your metabolism lives in, the more protein you're putting in, your body has to recruit energy from the easiest source. It's going to come from other forms of your adipose tissue and other easier forms to be able to create energy to digest that food. So now the thermogenic effect of eating that food is far more beneficial than the protein that you're going to get from a powdered form of any kind of protein or something else that the body can easily digest. It changes the entire perspective of your digestive system. It changes the biodiversity within your gut. It creates better gut health for your body. And you're allowed to go farther between your digestive process, which means that your 3 pillars of longevity, your rest, your refueling, and your resistance, they start to balance, and then they don't start to overlap each other. So if you focus your proteins on highly thermogenic, long digesting processes that increase the biodiversity of your gut, you will never, it's almost impossible for you to overeat, which means that automatically you're reducing the amount of calories, but now you're making your calories count instead of you counting your calories.
All right, go to. I'm not letting you go too soon. I see Aretha is loving everything you're saying, guys. Today we're talking about intermittent fasting, and I do have a final question for you guys. What he's saying is if you're eating whole foods. I know some people do not like the ketogenic diet because it has a lot of meat in it. I do not eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. I actually realized this morning, Dwayne, and maybe this is just for me. I personally don't like the meat. I saw What the Health a few years ago, and then I got thinking about the little animals. And I thought this week, I'm just like, I had corn yesterday. And I'm like, wow, I haven't had corn in years because I literally stopped eating corn because they said it was GMO. And I was thinking of what's different with me now than in the past. And I started eating fish again. So my question to you is if it's someone like me who I don't want to eat fish because the poor little fishies, and I really don't want to eat meat. Yes, I am very hungry after my protein and water. If a person like me does not want to eat the poor little animals, what would you suggest to stay full besides the protein and water?
Oh, yikes.
Is there anything, or I'm just going to be hungry?
I got to tell you, my own practices are simply based on the idea of what we look for and what I refer to as our ancestral reset. What we were programmed to do, what we would have been able to do, 50,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago. I'm remiss to offer anything else in the way of a suggestion from a protein perspective, because from a vegetarian or from a vegan perspective, I don't study enough to know what I think is going to be able to give you satiety. And I say that because there's arguments out there that people tell you to eat lentils and eat beans, but then those in and of themselves have got other inflammatory issues within the body that create other problems that your body needs to struggle against. Let me put it this way. When you think of meat, and if for all intents and purposes we just set aside the moral compass around meat, realize that we've had 200,000 years of ancestral programming that's designed us to be able to eat meat and be able to pull the two essential amino acids, the two essential macros, your essential amino acids and your essential fatty acids. Those two are essential for a reason. And they're essential because the body can produce glucose and carbohydrates without any problems from either one of those macros. So if we're not prioritizing them properly, and they're not biodiverse and they're not biodense, and from a biodensity perspective and from a biodiversity perspective, I struggle with the reality that you're going to get the same nutrient density strictly coming from a vegetable protein. It doesn't mean that in and of itself, when you hear proteins, you are survivable of it. But where we have issues from people thinking about inflammatory issues and people thinking about acidic and alkaline, and this is another argument that comes down the line, is that your body will always fight to be acidic. It has to fight to be acidic. And even if you try to make it alkaline, the body won't allow it to go beyond alkalinity, so it's going to force you to be more acidic. That is why meat is essentially acidic, because from the acidic compound, it needs to be able to break it down. If it's too alkaline, it can't break it down. So if you're creating a body or an environment that you're forcing to be alkaline, you can't break down animal proteins properly. If you can't break them down, you're going to have side effects. You're going to have inflammation issues. You're going to have digestive issues. If the body was allowed to break down the meat, and forget about the fact that when you look at the hormones and you look at all the other stuff from industrial raised meat, if you change the way you look at how meat is processed, if you had pasture-raised chickens, if you had pasture-raised grass-fed and grass-finished beef, for example, how it changes in the way the body brings in the protein, uses that protein structure, and allows the body to be able to function in an ancestral way. It's different than it would be if you were just buying, processed meat. You were buying things that are high in hormones. And you think about how the cows, for example, are being fed, and they're being fed with a lot of corn. Corn going into that cow then obviously goes into you, for example. So if you have any kind of issues with hormones, penicillin, and high GMO corn, well, it's already in the animal that you're going to consume. My point is this. Can I give you an answer of what I think you would be able to do? From a protein perspective, yes, there are beans, lentils, and all sorts of other sources of proteins, pea proteins, and things like that you could eat from a whole food perspective. The amount that you'd have to eat is overwhelming from that perspective. But here's my point: each plant and every species of plant all over the world has got an innate defense mechanism built into the living system. It's there to protect it from bugs. It's there to protect it from other plants, for that plant to be able to be taken over by, let's say, weeds and so on and so forth. It has within its own system the ability to defend itself in nature. Those types of defense mechanisms are in the form of oxalates that come into the body. When you consume an overabundant amount of vegetables, from a vegetarian perspective, from a vegan perspective, your body also has to fight off these defense mechanisms that are in the vegetables. Not to mention the fact that even organic, we all know about organic, they still have herbicides and pesticides that are being used on them, even though they say they're organic. It's just the level of which they're allowed to be able to put on it, so they're still considered organic. You will never find true organic vegetables unless you grow them in your backyard. So it's one or the other when you look at what it is that you're trying to put into your body. Do you want to put in meat? So from a vegetarian perspective or from a vegan perspective, if you don't want to because of your moral compass, I understand that. But you're trading off one demon for another because it's either GMO and oxalates and other inflammatory issues from foods that you're going to be eating that wouldn't have necessarily been within your ancestral line, because you're really not programmed to potentially eat a lot of spinach or a lot of kale. It may not be within your system, so it's harder for you from an elimination perspective to know whether or not you're getting inflammation, and inflammation is creating imbalances in your hormones, or in your hormones are creating imbalances in the way your body is going to recruit energy for you to be able to balance your cortisol levels and everything else that gives you energy. When you look at it from a protein perspective, from an animal protein perspective, people are saying that they're having issue with those proteins. But the question becomes is it because you're eating proteins along with some of the carbohydrates, some of the vegetables, so now you're getting both of the negative effects on both sides of the world? Or is it possible that when you look at a doctor's prescription or prescribed elimination diet, ask yourself what they tell you to eliminate. They don't tell you to eliminate meat. They tell you to eliminate vegetables. They tell you to eliminate all that stuff and stick to the very basics of what the body can and cannot consume. They tell you to eat dry, chicken breast, for example, or lean steak. They tell you to start in an elimination process. Well, they're telling you to start with the two essential macros, essential amino acids and essential fatty acids. And then you're supposed to start adding things back in, things that might trigger people. They might trigger people with milk. So put milk in. Do you get an inflammatory response? Do you get a feeling of being sick? No, okay, pull it out. Then go in and put nightshade vegetables in, like tomatoes. You start adding things in, and the moment you get a triggering mechanism, you start to avoid those types of foods. But in almost every fashion, in almost every elimination diet, what most people end up with is they end up with 3 meats that they know that the body is going to be able to digest really well. And about 75% of the time, it's actually red meat and eggs are the 2 that are left over. Well, the irony in that is that eggs are number 1 on the bioavailability, and ruminant meat, which is red meat, is number 2 on the bioavailability. And they reduce a lot of the vegetables. You'll hear people saying, well, I can't eat tomatoes, I can't eat beets, I can't eat kale, I can't eat. There's things that they can't eat, and they mostly eliminate vegetables. I may have gone on a bit of a rant here, but when I think of the thermogenic effect of protein and why your body needs it, why the body wants to be able to digest it slowly, and why you will want to allow the body to be able to digest and rest in that parasympathetic mode for 4 to 5 hours in between each meals, that's the importance of rest for balancing all your hormones. It's hard to do it when you're eating vegetables because the satiety level on eating vegetables is much lower. They digest faster. It's harder to stay satiated for 3 or 4 or 5 hours to complete an entire digestive process. So I would always recommend to people that if you're looking for biodiverse proteins, you want your eggs, you want your fish, you want your ruminant meat, if you're looking to be okay with the moral compass and not want to eat animals, that's fine. But realize that what you're battling against is you're battling against oxalates, you're battling against the defense mechanisms, and you're also battling against satiety. You force yourself to have to stop eating because you just can't get to a satiating level. And if you're going to drink any of those proteins, like those key proteins, know that most of it is going to be converted into energy, which means that your energy manipulation is going to force you to go to your default setting. And what's the default setting? Eat less. So you're going to do caloric restriction, which is going to affect your metabolism, which is going to affect the growth of that precious real estate that I was talking about. And I think it puts people in a situation where they become skinny fat more than anything else, and they're always wondering why there's inflammation issues, why they're always having bloating. And last but not least, the more women struggle with their weight has a lot to do with the combination of using the 3 forms of energy all in a single meal, because men run on a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Women run on a 30-day hormonal cycle. And in that 30-day hormonal cycle, there's more ups and downs than what men have to worry about, which means that the timing of certain carbohydrates based on what the body for a female is producing in the way of glucose is harder to balance strictly eating vegetables as it is for somebody who's eating meat proteins or animal proteins. because the body will create its hormonal balances from the fats. Then it's having struggles because it doesn't balance hormones as much when it's just pure vegan. And the older we get, as men and as women, it becomes more complicated for women strictly being on a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet. But it's impossible to avoid if your choice of vegetarian and choice of vegan is moral based as opposed to nutrient based. It just becomes more of an argument than anything else. Sorry that I took so long on that.
No, and you made a lot of sense. And I think for me, I can't speak for everyone in the room. If you're just coming into the room, we're talking about intermittent fasting, and it kind of turned over into protein because we were saying how important it is to have protein, and I was saying how I'm vegetarian. And I think for me, what I have to do, my go-to guy, Dwayne, guys, if you aren't following him, give him a big follow. He was one of the original moderators in this space when we began. And for me, I think it's a lot of, I don't want to say society, but vegan. I've always wanted to be vegan. It was like something I wanted to, but maybe it's not best for my body. So everybody's body is different. And for me, what I'm going to do is, just really dive into getting that inside of my blood work and everything and making sure that's right. So Dwayne, thank you so much for that. If anyone has a question for him before he goes, raise your hand. We're here Monday through Thursday. I'm going to hit him up in the back channel because I love challenges. In the beginning of the year, I think it was February, we each did a different type of challenge and we learned so much about our individual bodies and things like that. We're here Monday through Thursday, guys. This is the Fit, Healthy, and Blessed Club. It is your 8 a.m. cup of motivation. Before we get out of here, make sure you follow the person next to you. Make sure you follow the person above you. I see Chris blinking. Guys, today we highlighted Chris. If you look at her profile picture, she used to work with Richard Simmons. That motivated me so very much. Chris, would you like to give us your closing remarks before we get out of here?
Yes, I just want to thank Dwayne for popping in because he taught me everything I was telling you today. I do it in layman's terms. He brought the science with some fire. I hope you're encouraged to follow him or get with me so we can get you on his program. And he's just a wealth of knowledge and can answer any question you might have. So appreciate you, Dwayne, and thanks for coming in and bringing the science.
Yes. I just want to go through really quick and say thank you to everyone. We have Rhonda, Cheryl, Maribel, the self-care maven, Tonier, thank you. Renee, I see Barbara Bitzer in here. I'm giving you a follow. Guys, follow the person above you, below you. That's how you get around in these clubhouse streets. I see Sheila, Robin, Ty, Empress, my vegetarian over there. Aretha, thank you for coming through. Edward, Renita, always thank you. And of course, our lovely moderators, the social butterfly, Renee. Mary Kim, would you like to give us your closing remarks, questions, concerns? Have you ever heard this stuff before? Just tell us anything you want to say to get out of here, Mary Kim, if you're able to speak.
Yes, I am. This was great. I was taking in all the nuggets because I'm trying to level up and just be more mindful about my health, what I eat, and all the things. So I love this conversation today, and I took lots and lots of notes, and I think it's so important. I'm going to be 50 in a few weeks, and so now more than ever, I'm really leaning into how do I take care of my body, my blood work, and what can I do and put into my body is so crucial. I don't put the garbage in as much as I can, and reading ingredients and all these nuggets really help today. So I definitely encourage anyone to just take a listen through to the replays, because if you just take one thing today to make a difference in your life for better health, you live longer. That's my belief. We have to just take control and just get that toxic crap that's not doing our body any good with chemicals and stuff, and just decide to be healthy. So I love this. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mary Kim. And perhaps I'm going to get Chris and my go-to guy in the back channel so we can come up with some type of program. Because like I said, guys, I've worked with my go-to guy, Dwayne, when we first started this space. And I just felt everything growing. And with these ketones that I started. Dwayne, are you still taking the ketones? Yes, no?
I don't. And I'll tell you briefly that, that 7 days I did that fast on those ketones, I still feel the positive effects from them. I don't take them. I don't sell them. I don't do anything. But I got to tell you, that 7 days, and after me having my room with Dr. Barry and how we exchanged things and different information about what those ketones did to me, on the level of how hard I pushed myself, It made me a believer. Honestly, it made me a believer. Even I don't take them. Even I don't take them now. I still think back. It's like, you know what? It was, to me. It was like I went on a vacation in the most remote area ever, and I just love telling people about it. And you keep saying, "Well, why don't you go back? Why don't you go back?" And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back because I felt so good that 7 days. I don't know if I want to screw it up or I forget what it's like. But I will tell you, anybody that's on them, if you did what I did and just use it on a daily basis, what it did for me on 7 days during the fast, and how I became stronger and what I did with them, man, they've got to be in everybody's diet. I got to tell you, there's something so good about the biodiversity, the bioidentical connection to them, that secondary energy source, what it does for your metabolism. Anyway, I don't want to keep going on and on, but I don't use it, but I love that 7 days, and I would recommend it to anybody based on what it did for you those 7 days.
Chris, I don't know if it's true, but this is what I heard, that you and I are going to get together some ketones and give them to him so that he can support us.
Hey, he knows how to get them. He knows how to get them. But I did want to bring up this point because as you're talking about the protein and stuff, and I alluded to the protein shake I take, the protein I can talk, actually has ketones in it. So it has the equivalent of about a half a packlet of what you took, Dwayne. And so I'm wondering if for Tina and for the people that are getting this satiating protein in their body, the appetite suppressant and the energy of the actual ketones being included in this protein shake might be a good answer. So, Dwayne, I sent you information on that. Let's brainstorm about what you think about the product, and we'll get back to you guys and let you know if it's my go-to guy approved.
Chris, is this that protein that you gave me when I did my 72 hours? Was it one of those products?
Yeah, it's a good way to break your fast.
Okay, yes. All righty, guys. So we're getting out of here because I have to use the bathroom. I've been drinking too much water and I couldn't run to the bathroom because I'm live here on YouTube. If you haven't already, do me a huge favor, guys, because I'm really building my YouTube. It's a little funky. I'm working on my details, my cover, my highlights, all that stuff. But please just click the link at the top right now and subscribe to my YouTube channel. When you come to my YouTube channel, you're going to get little workouts, motivation, inspiration, all that wonderful stuff. I'm going to interview Dwayne one of these days. I interviewed Chris yesterday. We're highlighting her today, talking about ketones, talking about intermittent fasting. Thank you so very much, Dwayne, for coming through. And guys, that's about it. We're done now. Peace. And about hair grease. We're out here in 5, 4, 3, 2. You are all number one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I left the room by accident. I always do that. Let's see if I can get back in. Can I get back into the room? You guys see I went out the room first. I'm supposed to exit it. Let me click these 3 dots. Boom. Now the room is ended. All right, guys.